Hi, Professor Gaffney. Today I will be giving a speech on The Prodigal God by Tim Keller. So, in The Prodigal God by Tim Keller, he illustrates how God's radical grace for us, even in the midst of seeking fulfillment through other methods, is what saves us. So, I'm going to start off my speech by blowing your mind. In the parable, the prodigal son, both sons are lost. Crazy, right? Now you're thinking, am I remembering this parable right? I thought there was only one son who left the father. How could the other also be lost? Well, today in my speech, I'm going to explain each brother and how they are both lost in their own way, and then what both of them can do to be saved from this lostness. So, first let's start off with the idea of self-discovery. A typical youngest lost son. This is the son we see who we know is lost because he has physically left the father. To be honest, I bet I don't have to go really deep into what this younger brother looks like because everyone typically has an image of this brother in their mind. We see this archetype regularly in media and current culture. The idea that you can find happiness through doing what you want to do and through seeking things for yourself. In Steve Wilkins' Hidden Worldviews, individualistic worldviews. That's literally what self-discovery is. It is going off on your own, using anyone you want to, doing whatever you want to without effects on others to try and find that happiness for yourself. There are lots of movie plots, lots of modern media, lots of songs, and lots of TV shows that revolve around this idea. One of my favorite TV shows, New Girl, the main character is Jess. She is what I would call a youngest lost son. She is someone who, throughout the whole show, is just trying to discover herself and trying to build her own identity away from a bad relationship. And so the show just kind of follows her doing ridiculous things. It's a great show, but she's definitely typically who we see as like someone who is lost and a self-discoverer. In The Prodigal God, Tim Keller describes the wayward son as someone who seeks happiness through using the father for only his things, not the relationship that we can have for the father, or sorry, with the father. In the parable, the son leaves the father after he receives his inheritance, searching for happiness and fulfillment with what the father can give him rather than the father himself. Next is the idea of moral conformity. So, moral conformity comes from the oldest brother. So, another character in New Girl is Schmidt. He doesn't really have it all together either, but he appears more like he has it all together because the way that Schmidt goes about life is conforming to social conventions. He is what I would call like a finance bro. So he uses the system, the business ladder. He tries to climb it, and he does that by like sucking up to his bosses and obeying them and like doing everything they ask of him. A typical oldest brother, just like how the oldest brother stayed back and followed the rules and tried to get his father's inheritance through moral conformity. So the eldest stayed and worked the land, so how can he be lost? But he's lost in the fact that he, like the youngest son, only wants the father for what he can give him rather than the relationship that could be had with the father. He completely misses the point of the father. Um, and he tries to use him rather than experience the love that the father has for him. He is lost in the way that his heart has wandered away from the father. He might not have physically wandered away, but his heart is far from him. The father offers him a seat at the table, a seat at the feast, but the eldest son is too prideful to take that seat. In Proverbs 11:2, when pride comes, then comes disgrace. With the humble is wisdom. The real path to this happiness and joy that both these brothers are looking for is not through either of their methods. It's not through social conformity or moral conformity, and it's not through self-discovery. It's actually not a combination of either, and it's not a happy medium. It's completely different. Tim Keller writes, "The gospel is distinct from the other two approaches, and it's In its view, everyone is wrong. Everyone is loved, and everyone is called to recognize this and change. What both brothers struggle with is the idea that they are wrong in how they pursue happiness, and they think they can achieve it on their own away from God, when really all that God requires of them is to realize that they are wrong and that God is just asking them to humbly come to the table. Um, One brother may have an easier time realizing this though. The youngest brother is obviously wrong, and so we see that and we know he's wrong, and that might lead to an easier time humbly coming to the table. But the older brother feels justified in what he's been doing, and so he does not have that same attitude of humbleness. So, in conclusion, whether you fall into either camp of the eldest brother or the youngest brother, God is calling you to humbly come to the feast knowing you're wrong. Despite how current culture and media show the root of happiness, whether through trying to discover yourself or through climbing the business ladder, um, let the parable of the prodigal son remind you that the only way we find joy and fulfillment is in a humble relationship with the Father, not through what the Father can give us, but rather the loving relationship we can have with Him. Thank you.